Alright, here's a interesting article about why Jim Sinclair thinks that the bear market, or the lower priced market, prices of gold and silver, are pretty much at their bottom and have peaked, and now it's time for the next leg of the bull run, which means the price is going up. And he does make a good case with the pointers he points out, so to speak, and I believe there's 30 of them. These are all things that I'm sure I've spoken about, but it'll kind of put them in one video. So let's see what he has to say. Now, Jim Sinclair, by the way, is like the grandfather of gold. This guy's been into gold since he was like born out of his mother, out of the womb. Just bam, all up in gold. He's the CEO of that Tanzania, whatever, I forgot to pronounce it, mining corporation in somewhere in South Africa. Remember the other day I mentioned, maybe a month ago, this new exchange that was coming online, I think in Singapore. They want him to be like the head guy of it, CEO or something of that. Jim Sinclair's been around. He's been calling for way higher gold prices. Usually he has pretty good accuracy, but again, when the powers that be can simply manipulate stuff, it's real hard to be accurate when they do that. However, every time they do it, they can only do it for so much longer, and that period gets shorter and shorter and shorter because it takes more and more and more and more money. The rule of diminishing returns, as I've mentioned before, takes a whole lot more money to move the prices a tiny bit, that kind of thing, because when these guys are levered on the paper, hundreds to one or 100 to one even, that's a lot of paper for a tiny bit of gold. So as more people play that game, you can move the market by selling and buying the paper, but it takes a whole lot more money because there's a whole lot more leveraged dollars or paper, whatever, out there pushing and shoving back and forth the price of gold and silver. So he says, number one, the new definition of warfare is economic. Sanctions against Russia and the implications for the petrodollar. Number two, they always spell this wrong, FATCA. It's not FACTA, it's FATCA. And the underlying long-term, remember that's July, and the underlying long arm of the U.S. government via any transaction internationally that passes, even momentarily, through the dollar as a contract settlement mechanism, the negative implications for the dollar's future as a contract settlement mechanism internationally. So that's, again, FATCA takes effect, I think, July 14th or 11th, and now they want the IRS is saying any organization outside of the U.S., if you deal with dollars, you have to report it back to yeah, okay. No, we won't use your dollar. Have a nice day. That's how that's going to go. If you haven't already taken notice, it's already going there rapidly. The EU is split over sanctions on Russia due to Russia energy demand and Russian business interests. So, yeah, sanctions. Oh, wait a minute. Second thought, never mind, Russia. You can keep sending the gas. We were just kidding. That's taking place. 4. Middle Eastern hegemony and Arab Spring is defunct. Arab Spring, as I mentioned a bunch of times, Lindsey Williams talking about the countries that would go, Egypt, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Libya, Syria, whatever. That is, you can pretty much put a fork in that. Now Iraq is overthrowing, it's undoing what we did over there. Our oil interests, Exxon, we're packing up, we're leaving right now. Why? I thought everything was cool. I thought everybody was happy. No? Guess not. Number 5, Iran to assist in Iraq if asked, which is the failure of mission accomplished that we allegedly said a while back. Iraq oil production challenged by the ISEL. I thought it was ISIS. 7, Kurds emboldened by ISIL. 8, U.S. relationship with Saudi Arabia and Qatar is strained. And once again, thought I mentioned this the other day, Saudi Arabia is actually looking into doing deals in the Russian and or Chinese currency for their oil. Number 9, the BRICS nations uniting economically and politically as a standalone force, not including the U.S. Number 10, China expands the yuan, their currency basically, also known as the renminbi, as an international currency. Number 11, China Sea energy tensions with Japan and Vietnam. Number 12, USA's position on the Chinese Sea China Sea crisis where Japan is concerned, which is we're kind of busy right now. Number 13, the militarization of Japan. Number 14, the distinct scent of inflation. Look all around you, especially in food prices. 15, general dissatisfaction with answers to questions to Federal Reserve Chairwoman Janet Yellen regarding FOMC meeting last week. 16, IMF reduced expectations of U.S. economic recovery. How could you possibly reduce expectations when in 2009, April, I believe, we officially were free of the recession? 17, U.S. zombie banks, as defined by banks leverage generally 30 to 35 times the size of their capital or total OTC derivative exposure. That's true. 18, condition of the flooded municipal bond market. 19, decline in volume with rise in value of equities making equity price shadows our reality. 20, total irrational exuberance driven by hyper-liquidity. 21, hyper-liquidity can become hyperinflation via the velocity of money in a crisis of confidence of the dollar. Therefore, hyperinflation will be a currency-motivated event to get away from the US dollars for the other countries. Reaction to the momentum equity leaders of the last 2 years burning a public? Yeah, I guess. 23, strength of the utilities group, which has historic attachment to tops in equity markets. And then we have the old problems for the next several on his list. The 1 quadrillion, 140 trillion dollar real size of the OTC derivatives market, over-the-counter derivatives market. Economic underpinning of the dollar in jeopardy as recovery sputters globally. Absurd size of the Fed balance sheet and lack of marketability of significant size legacy derivatives positions. The balance sheet of the Fed means they're the ones buying up all of our bonds, our debt. When the money is printed to fund our government, normally countries step up to the window, we'll take $40 billion here, we'll take $10 billion here, and then we make interest payments to those people who gave us that money. But there's nobody, or a lot less, people stepping up to the window asking for that debt. Therefore, we can't have a collapse, so we just have the same guy that prints the money just buy it up and put it on your balance sheet. Just mark it as an entry on your balance sheet. Never really exists, just write it down. It exists on paper, and we love stuff on paper. Actually, I love stuff that's a real physical object, like worth money, called gold and silver. Not a piece of paper that says something that someone wrote down. Number 27. Tapering of quantitative easing and little Belgium to the quantitative easing rescue. Which is, as you've heard recently, all of a sudden there's this new buyer of this debt, like the Fed stepping in somewhere out of Belgium, is this debt's being purchased. No idea who that is. 28. China and Russia on the sell side of the U.S. Treasuries, not the buy side. Number 29, which is Myra. Remember the Myra accounts Obama talked about? You can put your money in there, it's safe. Kind of letting you know if the banks collapse, your money's not safe. But in these Myra accounts, they are safe. So give us your money, because now we need you to help fund the government. Okay. I thought that's what Social Security did, and you guys rated that. No, yeah? Okay. Myra exposes consideration of invasion of retirement accounts, and GOTS get out of the system as a defense strategy. Number 30. The huge dropout of the labor pool in the United States, making employment figures sketchy at best. And as you know, employment figures. Remember that little thing I just said about a minute ago? They love to just write stuff down on paper and kind of tell you, like, here's Here's the deal now, all of a sudden. Trust us, these are the numbers, right? It's on paper, and some news agency reads the report. Oh, unemployment's down 6.7%, 6.6%, 6.5%, 6.3%. Man, IMF, you guys are saying the recovery's looking sketchy. You're reforecasting your outlook of our recovery. IMF, did you not just hear the last several times our numbers are released? Unemployment is going down, down, down. Down, down, baby, your street in a Ranger, right? No. No. I guess they didn't get that memo. Or, I guess they understand that's just propaganda for the sheeple, for the peasants. We know the truth. We know your outlook is absolutely sketchy at best. There will be no economic recovery, but we don't want to also crash your guys' economy. So we're going to just say our outlook has changed a little bit towards the bad side, but not a lot, just a little bit. So 2008, 9, well, it really started in 9, 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 5 years into this alleged recovery. And we're still not out of the woods. So what other numbers does J-Step4 talk about to prove that those unemployment numbers are complete and utter nonsense? Look no further than the number of people on food stamps. You can also look at another chart provided by that same, I don't know where it comes from exactly, the food stamp system. And that shows the amount of money that each household gets roughly every year. New chart, new chart, new chart. And you can see that the number of money, the amount of money you get as a family for food stamps, or on that food stamp card, or EBT card, whatever you prefer to call it, started up here several years ago, and has slowly been doing this all the way down, which means the amount of money you get back is dwindling more and more and more. Why would the money be going down? Because more people are going in on food stamps. They need the food stamp money, but there's only a certain amount of pool of money that gets put into that fund, so everybody who's in it has to share it. And as you know, at least if you've been listening to me for any period of time, several years ago that number of participants was somewhere around 24 million people on food stamps. Fast forward today, and there's 50 million. So yes, while the unemployment year after year, month after month, last several years anyways, or our last few years, has shown that it keeps going down. Can't go down. It cannot go down when food stamp usage is going up and homeless people on the streets are exploding in numbers. That is not possible. Now at the same time, if the government told the truth and said, yep, unemployment is actually about 12%, or whatever it is, right? Let's just say it's 12. That's the real numbers. We're sorry. It's about double what we said, 12%. What actually changed? Nothing. The only difference is, right, because everything continues. The unemployment continues, the food stamp usage continues, pretty much everything continues as is, except the number that came out was actually the truth. But government, for some reason, likes to look good in the people's eyes, when in reality they're doing a horrible, horrible job. So one could say, oh my God, under this administration or this president and this Congress, we've had the worst unemployment we've ever had. Or maybe not including the Great Depression, but in any recent history, worst ever. People might be apt or inclined to voting out those people just based on that number. Even if you're not affected, you're going to feel for the people who are affected and say, man, we got to get rid of these clowns. So if they show you, look, we're actually doing a pretty good job, maybe we'll get voted back in. But there's a problem with that, because there's just little polls that come out that show the approval rating of the president and the approval rating of Congress. And while the president's approval rating is pretty poor, the approval rating of Congress is absolutely dismal. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if it's ever been as bad, ever as low as it has been right now in history. In the history of the United States, I don't know if it has been. I've never seen it quite so low. It's like 7% or something right now. 7% approval rating. And yet these people keep getting voted back in. Hopefully this Cantor overthrow, you know, career politician, been there for like 26 years, was overthrown by a Tea Party favorite, or not even a favorite, Tea Party candidate who was a massive underdog, who had 50 times, 50 times less campaign money to work with when compared to Cantor, who has a ton of money because the club likes him. You know, the power structure, the different complexes, the, you know, military industrial complex, the pharmaceutical complex, the banking, you know, they all contribute to his campaign heavily. So this underdog with 50 times less funding, which is an absurd amount less, won. And yes, before everyone gets their hopes up too high, you have to understand something, Mr. Realist News, keeping it real. This is one guy out of what, 430 congressmen? There's 430 congressmen, and there's what, 99 or 100? Yeah, I think 100. Yeah, 100 senators. So that's 535 people, minus one. And of course, I know there's the Rand Paul and the few people out there that are decent. So let's just say, out of 535 people, there's 10 people who are definitely good guys. That leaves 400 or 525 remaining that we need to get rid of. Vote out completely. Anybody who's been a kind of somewhat anything career politician, get him out of there. So again, Realist News here is gonna look at the statistics and say, okay, we've removed a few, and we've got a massive, unprecedented infestation that needs to be taken out of Congress and replaced with new people. Again, new people as in new people who are not the same old people, as in meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Meet the new senator, same as the old senator. I'm for this, I'm for this. People get behind them, they cheer, yes, yes, yes. And then they get in office, thanks for voting me in. I'm not gonna make you unhappy. I'm gonna make you very happy for voting me in, guys, thanks. And then immediately, everybody who voted him in, all right, my guy's in, I know things will start going well. I'm not even gonna check up. Not even gonna look at what he's passing, not gonna look at what he's voting on. I don't need to, because he made all these promises and I believe the words that were coming out of his mouth. Kind of like everyone fell for our president. And I'm gonna tell you, I can't blame people for voting for Obama, especially the first time. The second time I got a problem with. The first time, 2008, I can't blame anybody for voting for him. Why? Because if you go back, which you can find it all over YouTube easily, and listen to his campaign promises. This is what I'm about, this is what I'm gonna do, this is what I'm gonna do immediately, right? This is what I'm gonna work on. None of which he did. The biggest thing he can say he did, I got the troops out of Iraq, but we left behind a little, kind of a little party, had the most massive embassy, military base thing we've ever created. That's gonna stay, and we gotta man it with Americans, people, but we're not really gonna be in a military force, so I'm gonna go ahead and say, yeah, I removed everybody that I said I would remove, minus a few people. Gotta have a few people there. So that's his big claim to fame. I told you I'd do it, and I did it. Really. The economy's worse. All the promises he made some of these black communities. That one lady called the Obama phone lady. There's pictures of her, a video of her standing out there with signs. I mean, just go for the president. You gotta vote this guy. She was on Alex Jones' show several years later on how disgusted she was and how she believed those lies, and she's pissed off, and now she's telling everyone else, don't vote for that sorry sack of crap, blah blah blah. But how is a person supposed to know Think about this. How is just an average person supposed to know when these people are out there in front of the cameras telling you everything that you know is wrong with your country, and I'm going to fix it if you vote for me? And everything that they've said, you are absolutely in agreement with, and this person's right, and I've never really heard someone talk like this that was a politician. The amount of things this guy's going to fix. Oh my God, I got to vote for him. So you did, and then 4 whole years went by. 4 whole years, nothing got done, things still continue to get worse, and then you gave him a second shot. And I think some of those people a lot of people I should say, who gave him the second chance, believed in that, well, 4 years really isn't that much time, we need more. We need to give him a second. He's got a lot to do. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, let's give him a second term, and he'll probably get it done. Oh, he's getting it done. Just not what you had planned. Take care.